Hi, Aaron.
Hi, Olivia. So
How's
good
it
to see you.
going?
Hello.
Good to see you. Sorry, still figuring out all the mechanics of everything.
Well, this is not my first Instagram Live, but it is the first day of school here at Cal Poly. I know we're dusting off a lot of the cobwebs
Yeah.
and getting started with all things Instagram to, cap off the first day of school here in sunny San Luis Obispo. So, Olivia, it's great to join. Thanks for having me on. It looks like we have folks that are joining us to talk all things Cal Poly majors. Yeah, so I think I heard that you're a communications studies major. And do you have a minor here at Cal Poly?
I actually do have a minor. So I started pursuing the integrated marketing communications minor, and so I've taken a few classes towards that. But because the minor was impacted due to COVID and everything, I ended up not finishing it. But I really enjoyed the classes that I took towards that minor, and obviously will still take away the lessons that I learned from it. But I'm actually now pursuing a minor called Science and Risk Communications. So kind of the basis of that is, with our increasing technological boom and environmental concerns, we're going to have to learn how to communicate about science, risk, technology, anything along those lines.
Yeah, and that is one of the newer minors at Cal
Mm-hmm.
Poly under the Cultural Liberal Arts. So that's a really cool opportunity. Olivia, there are 89 minors at Cal Poly. So if that one doesn't stick out to you, you could go dairy science to packaging to computer science to religious studies and so much more. So I say we just kind of get into it and we start talking about what it looks like for folks to apply in the future. And how about I introduce myself and a little about my who I am, and then we'll talk a little bit about those kind of foundational experiences of all things majors, minors,
Yeah,
and so much more. How's that sound?
perfect. Sounds good.
Okay, so my name is Aaron Borgeson, and I get to serve as an admissions officer here. My pronouns are he, him, and I am a two-time graduate of Cal Poly. So my original degree when I came here to Cal Poly was political science. And so I came to Cal Poly as a student exiting high school and chose the major of political science. Came here for the degree of political science, and I picked up, while I was here, like Olivia did, Olivia picked up a minor, or has picked up a minor, I picked up a minor as well. I picked up the minor of anthropology and geography. So that's not two different minors, that's actually a shared minor between anthropology and geography. So I ended up graduating with a bachelor's of arts in political science and a minor in anthropology and geography. My specific political science degree had a concentration. My concentration under political science was American politics. And so that's a little bit about who I was when I was a student here at Cal Poly. That was my degree. And then I also got a master's here, and I get to hang out with you all and talk a lot more about majors, minors, selecting your major at Cal Poly when it comes time to applying, and so much more. So we're going to talk a little bit about this process. Let me give you some core facts of a little bit about Cal Poly and the different programs that we have. So we have 64 different majors here at Cal Poly. Our 64 different majors are in 6 different colleges. So we have 6 different colleges here at Cal Poly, and our 64 different majors are all under one of those colleges. And so Olivia and I, or Olivia, you probably identify as a Cal Poly student, but you also have a major, or you identify as a College of Liberal Arts student. Is that right?
Yeah.
But I suspect, Olivia, when you go and maybe introduce yourself to other students, you might introduce yourself as a communication studies major. Does that probably sound right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So Cal Poly, we have 64 different degrees, and do I need to worry about that when I look to apply? And this is the big question that we're here to talk about today. At Cal Poly, you're going to indicate your major on the application. And that is super duper important, because guess what? Today is September 20th. In 10 days from now, you're going to be applying, you're going to be able to submit your application on October 1st through November 30th. So you're going to have 2 months to apply to Cal Poly. And when you look to apply in the future, students, you will have the chance to indicate your major on the application as a primary major and a secondary or alternative major. And this makes Cal Poly unique because on our brochure, on this little brochure, on the list of majors that's available right on the Cal Poly website, there is no undeclared or undecided. So that makes Cal Poly unique. There's no undeclared, no undecided opportunities. So this is a big one. And if you're joining us here today, thinking about applying in the future, this information is so important because when it comes time to apply to Cal Poly, we want to make sure that you select the major that you're most passionate about. And that's what Olivia and I are here to talk about. So Olivia, when you interact with students, do you often hear about like maybe some nervousness about selecting that major, or have you ever heard about maybe students thinking about undeclared or undecided? What do you often say to a student like that?
Definitely. On the tours that I've done this summer, one of the big questions I get when talking about general is the change of major process. I think there's kind of this stigma at Cal Poly that you're not able to change your major, or that you're stuck whenever you apply. And this is not the case. You know, it's definitely possible to go through that process. I know that when I was a senior in high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I mean, I was sitting taking BuzzFeed quizzes saying, what should my major be? I literally went through everything to try and figure it out.
I might suggest that we don't go to TikTok as like our primary, I mean, we're on Instagram, so maybe that's like talking about the rival platform, but maybe we don't use Instagram or TikTok as our chief place to figure out what we're gonna major in college.
Yes, I just kind of wanted to figure out sort of basically what I ended up doing was seeing what all of my strengths were in my classes, and then either going through specific schools or general majors that I found kind of carry across a lot of different colleges. And I found that communications fit my specific strengths. So
that's awesome.
Communication, working with people, reading, writing, language skills. So I definitely recommend that, even if it's something that, you know, to the ordinary person wouldn't seem like something that you could have been passionate about your whole life, there still could be that perfect major for you. So definitely doing your research is what I would recommend.
And on that research, I want to kind of roll down a couple different things. I know I got a helper in the audience at the Cal Poly Welcome Center. So I'm going to ask that they throw in the Cal Poly just admissions website, calpoly.edu/admissions, because folks, I know that you're sitting there going, you know what? I might have this dream career. Like I want to be a lawyer, or maybe I want to go after, you know, maybe I want to be a veterinarian, but I don't necessarily know what career path I could choose. So we have this really cool kind of explore major platform right on our admissions website. So calpoly.edu/admissions, you have this opportunity to explore majors. So let's say the career outcome that I've always wanted to do is maybe, like I said, you know, become a veterinarian, but you don't necessarily know how to get to that option. So what you can do is go check out our Cal Poly website, calpoly.edu/admissions. And what you can do there is you can actually see the Explore Major platform for you to understand, okay, these are the majors you can select to go into, say, the degree of, or the profession of veterinary sciences. Or maybe I've always wanted to study business administration, but I don't necessarily know about the career outcomes that I could choose. So calpoly.edu/admissions is a great website for you to explore more. So we have 64 different degrees across our 6 different colleges. And if you're just joining us now, we are talking all things majors, minors, concentrations, and more. So while I reference that, Olivia, do you want to talk a little bit about how minors let's talk a little bit about how majors, minors, and concentrations are different. So do you kind of want to lay down the law on how those might be different here at Cal Poly?
Yeah, so basically your major is your, obviously within the college, like Aaron talked about, is your main area of study. So that is going to be what you graduate with, that's your degree, that is the general focus of your education and your 4 years here at Cal Poly. Your minor is an optional preference. If you, let's say you are a computer science major and you're interested in artificial intelligence, perhaps you want to go over to the College of Liberal Arts and pick up a psychology minor. Or you are a liberal studies major, but you want to teach Spanish. You could pick up a Spanish minor.
Ooh, now we're talking. Now we're talking.
And take on those classes to sort of specify your interests. A lot of majors also have concentrations. So, for example, within the College of Business, the Business Administration major, which is our largest major at Cal Poly, has tons of different concentrations. And the way that works is you take classes in all of these concentrations for your first 2 years as a business student, and then you narrow down that choice into one concentration, whether it be human resources, marketing, real estate, finance, anything along those lines, and you'll concentrate so within that broader major degree on that specific area of study.
So I'm so glad you referenced that. I mentioned when I was political science, I had a concentration in American politics, but like communication studies, take your major as an example, does that have concentrations?
It doesn't. No, we do not have concentrations.
So I'm glad that we're talking about this, Olivia, because not every single major has concentrations. And do you want to talk a little bit about so I often get asked the question, do I need to know my concentration when you apply to Cal Poly? And you do not. You do have to know what major you're selecting on the application, but you don't have to know about minors. You don't have to know about concentrations. That's, as Olivia said, with business administration being a great example. You don't need to know about minors or think about concentrations that you're thinking of picking up until you've completed at least 1 quarter. Typically, minors and concentrations are picked up even into your second or maybe even third year of study. Typically, the second year of study is when you start to formulate what those might look like. But that's not something that you have to know when you apply to Cal Poly.
You're probably also wondering, why do we have people declare their majors coming in? That is because we have what's called the upside down curriculum or the blended curriculum. So that means that day one on campus as a freshman or transfer student, you will be taking classes within your major. So I took a communications class my very first quarter. It was actually Comms 101 or public speaking, which is a general education class, but it was also obviously a major class for me. So that for me was kind of a tester. I thought, okay, do well in this class, I'll know I'm in the right spot and I'm enjoying it, then means that I chose the right major. And I ended up loving that class. So that meant that I felt this sense of security that my next 4 years or so would be in the right place. So I personally really like the upside down or blended curriculum because it allows you to get that 4 years of experience rather than taking 2 years of general education classes and then declaring your major after that.
And for our transfer students, they get to jump right into major specific classes that very first quarter. And Olivia, you and I came in as first year students or freshmen. So we had that opportunity to receive that class schedule that first quarter. But transfers, because of most of those general education classes already have been taken at the community college or four-year university, they're gonna register on their own for those classes. But like you said, both our first year and our transfer students have that opportunity to hit the ground running in classes in your major. And Olivia, I think this makes Cal Poly so special because many universities have you take general education classes and then major specific classes. I want to take an example as a really good kind of way for you all to understand what this looks like. Olivia, I don't know if you know any aerospace engineering students out there, but that major is such a great example of what that looks like. So aerospace engineering, you have the opportunity to go into two different kind of pathways, aeronautical engineering as well as astronautical engineering. So day one here at Cal Poly, our incoming aerospace students, since today is the first day of school, they're in this class actually today, this quarter. They have that opportunity in the first 5 weeks to build a model rocket. And then the next 5 weeks, they have a chance to build a model plane, exposing them to both sides of the aerospace industry from the very first day here at Cal Poly. And as a political science student, you were sharing your experience as a communications student. I was in 2 to 3 classes in my major my very first day at Cal Poly, in addition to 1 general education class. So, Olivia, we've talked a lot about majors. We've talked about minors. We've talked about concentrations. We've talked about applying or declaring your major on the application. Do we want to see if there's any questions from the audience? You want to hit that that question bubble, and we'll see if anyone's got a question. I did see, while you do that, Olivia, I did see one that came in early on about a portfolio requirement for architecture. Specifically, the question was, do I need to submit a portfolio for the major of architecture? And that question is a great question. Incoming first years do not need to include a portfolio when it comes time to applying, but transfer students do include a portfolio when they go to apply. So that's a little bit about a difference between first years and second years. So it looks like we're actually talking about this question. It looks like this question got submitted and we're actually tackling it right now. Olivia, I see the question, it looks like from Amber. Are you looking at if we're looking at a bachelor's for architecture, our portfolio is required? And I just want to reinforce this. If you're a high school student, no portfolio is required, recommended, or desired. But if you are a transfer student, that's a community college or 4-year transfer student, a portfolio is required. Not when you look to apply to Cal Poly, but in the month of January, that's when we're going to invite students to submit that portfolio. That's a good question.
Okay, we have another one as well. Is it recommended to obtain your master's at Cal Poly as an undergraduate or branch out?
That is an awesome question. Wow, that is a great question. So my goodness, we have, I think it's right around 50 master's or credential programs. And I am gonna maybe use a cop-out answer and say it depends, because we don't have necessarily every master's program that you wish to do. If you want to become like a school counselor, we don't have that program for you to go become a school counselor. But if you want a master's in business administration, an MBA, master's in business administration, we absolutely have that program, and it is a phenomenal program. But let's say maybe you want to do a master's in library sciences or art history. We don't have that program. So Cal Poly may not be the best fit for every student for a master's, but we do offer master's programs here that a lot of students do. Also, a lot of students might pick up a credential or a certificate after they graduate. I think of a lot of students that in the College of Business might go after an accounting master's or a tax prep master's. So there's so many different opportunities here at Cal Poly. Back and talk a little bit about that process to apply and declaring your major on the application. Let's talk a little bit about that application, because we are just about 10 days from the application opening up. So when it comes time to applying, you're going to indicate your major on the application. And we have what's called a primary major. And that primary major is is required, but we also have a secondary or alternative major. And so you can choose that secondary or alternative major, but it's not required. It is your choice. Most of the time, we're just going to use that primary major on the application, but sometimes we do utilize the alternative major. So I would highly recommend listing 2 majors, that primary major and that secondary major, if you are thinking about applying to Cal Poly. And that secondary major does not have to be in the same college that you are looking to apply to. So there's a couple things that we've already talked about, and that's the Cal Poly admissions website. So calpoly.edu/admissions. And then another great website, Olivia, I'm going to try to do my best as I talk here to type in this website. So you can maybe even pin this comment as I type here. And that is the catalog.calpoly.edu. And catalog.calpoly.edu is an awesome website. Olivia, I wonder, even maybe as a current student, maybe if you've ever gone out to this website, the catalog.calpoly.edu allows a student, maybe that's on the call here today, to go out and see under programs A through Z, the different majors that we offer, and what classes each student would be taking. So, okay, if I'm a communication studies major, if I'm a mechanical engineering student, if I'm an architecture, if I'm a nutrition student, what classes do I get to take before I graduate from Cal Poly? So catalog.calpoly.edu is an awesome way for you to see what classes you might be interested in taking and see, like, let's say I'm not sure if I want to do environmental management protection or environmental earth and soil science. You have that opportunity to see the different classes that each one of these different majors would be required to take. So you get to really unpack, goodness, I'm more interested in, say, this major versus that major because I went out and reviewed catalog.calpoly.edu. So I highly recommend you do that. Olivia, we were also talking about concentrations. Each one of those concentrations is listed there. So say computer science, if a student really wants to go into, say, computational arts, so maybe combining the art and design experiences, the creative side, the design side with computer science. Maybe they want to choose our computational computing for interactive computational arts. And so that's like a minor here at Cal Poly. So you can see all of this under catalog.calpoly.edu.
Aaron, I can't see it in the comments right now.
Oh,
I don't know.
Okay, I threw it there, but maybe it's the last comment I see right now. So maybe folks can take advantage of that. It looks like I think that's totally fine.
Okay.
So
yeah, I definitely use the catalog a lot. Even now, I still use it just to read a little bit about the classes I take, especially going into my last couple of years where I've been able to pick upper division electives. That allows me to decide what I'd be more interested in, and definitely recommend looking into it when you're picking your major, just because, you know, you might have an idea of what a major is based on the general broad name or what people have told you. But if you don't actually think you would enjoy the classes you would be taking, then it's definitely a good idea to read into what you would actually be studying.
Olivia, I think of a great example as liberal studies. Liberal studies, a lot of people think, that seems pretty broad in nature,
Yeah.
but it's actually a specific major if you want to go into the primary school teaching field. So that would be an example where maybe doing that research would make sure that you're definitely understanding what would be quite different about maybe what you're thinking based off of reading that major title and then the actual program, right?
Yes.
Hey, Olivia, let's talk a little bit about, while we're talking about catalog.calpoly.edu, a term that I suspect you're familiar with, and that is degree flowcharts, or degree flowcharts. That is a term that a lot of Cal Poly students know, but prospective students, I think this is an awesome resource for you to know about. Olivia, do you want to talk a little bit about why that might be a great resource for a prospective student, and a little bit about what we mean by degree flowcharts here at Cal Poly?
Yeah, of course. So your degree flowchart is basically going to be a suggested plan for when you take your classes and what classes you'll be taking. So it'll break up your degree into 4 years and break it down by quarter. We're on the quarter system here at Cal Poly, so 3 suggested quarters. And it'll have some suggested classes using your major classes, your support courses, general education classes, and it kind of creates this flow of the general classes that you should and might want to take using your major. So I definitely use this as a resource because it's helped me visualize sort of my plan and my 4 years that I'll be having. And this is good once you're admitted into a major, but also, you know, if you're just looking, just if you could look and kind of envision your 4 years and what they would look like and research maybe some specific classes, this is a great resource to use.
And I just threw in the website at advising.calpoly.edu. So that URL there, Olivia, advising.calpoly.edu, that's where you can actually see your degree flowcharts. So what you can do is you go to advising.calpoly.edu, check the very top of that web page, and then there's something called degree flowcharts. That's where you can then specifically choose the major of, say, agricultural business, and then see, as Olivia was talking about, over the course of your study, what the different setup would be, so that what you'd be taking your first year, your second year of study, and so on and so forth. So I would highly recommend what Olivia just mentioned, and that's advising.calpoly.edu, and then checking out those degree flowcharts. So Olivia, there is one other thing that I really am looking forward to talking about here today, is called the Graduate Status Report. And this is something that is done by Career Services. So you might be a high school student, you might be a community college student out there, and you might be aware of something that's called like your college and career center, or your college guidance team, or at a transfer student, as a transfer student, might be called like the transfer center or the college advising team, or excuse me, like a career advising team. At Cal Poly, Olivia, I'm not sure if you've ever met with Career Services. We have over 25 different professionals that assist you with making sure that you are on the way to whatever career, whatever job plan, whatever life brings you after Cal Poly or at Cal Poly. And sometimes our students might choose to meet with Career Services because they're really unsure of their major. Or maybe as a business administration student, you want to make sure that your resume is drafted so that you can be competitive and you could drop that resume off at one of our different career fairs at Cal Poly. Or maybe you're an architecture student and you're thinking about like, you know what, I really want an internship this summer, but I don't really know how to start. Well, our Career Services team does this awesome thing. And I honestly am so excited to tell you all about this, because this is like a diamond in the rough. Like, we're going gold mining. Like, we've struck gold with this resource, okay? This is called the Graduate Status Report Cal Poly. So GSR Cal Poly, or Graduate Status Report Cal Poly, is this awesome resource where you get to see, what did our graduates do with their degree? Did they go off to graduate school? Did they go off to employment? What job title did they get? Where are they working? What employers are hiring Cal Poly grads? If I choose the major of landscape architecture, what are the job opportunities for me? If I go and pursue communication studies, what are the different titles of people's employment after graduation? So the Graduate Status Report is an awesome resource, because if I'm out there and I'm going, computer science, that's what I want to do, but what the heck do I have? Like, what are the opportunities for computer science grads? This is going to lay out the starting salaries, the job titles, the employers that hire Cal Poly, and the graduate schools and the graduate majors that our Cal Poly students go and pursue. Okay? So I highly recommend that you check out Graduate Status Report Cal Poly. All right? So if I'm going to do a Google search, I'll type that in right now for you all. It's called Graduate Status Report Cal Poly. And this is an awesome thing. So I'm literally putting in our chat right now the Google search that I would love for you to do. And so you can see, hey, if I choose the major of Aerospace Engineering, or let me choose a major that might be a little bit like maybe not as clear of what careers. So let's say if I choose the major of kinesiology, what are the career outcomes? If I choose chemistry or political science, what are folks doing? So I would highly recommend that you check out Graduate Status Report Cal Poly. Is an awesome resource.
Yeah, and you might be surprised with some of the majors.
Absolutely.
For example, before coming to Cal Poly, I really didn't know much about construction management. And the job opportunities within that major are incredible. There's 100% job placement after graduation for this major. So every construction management major that walks across the stage in their hard hat has a job waiting for them on the other side. So you never know, it could be amazing. Would never really think of as having all of these amazing opportunities, and it could be something that you're actually really interested in pursuing.
So I'm glad you brought construction management up, because that is an awesome degree, and you can also see the likelihood that people are getting jobs or graduate or graduate school, and when they're getting those accomplishments. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that. There are so many career outcomes for Cal Poly grads. And honestly, Olivia, I can speak for Cal Poly, but I don't like, this is a gold mine of a resource, because I don't know what other universities publish this data for you to understand the different career outcomes for graduates across the United States. So I can speak for Cal Poly and say just how amazing of a resource this is. So Olivia, do we have any other questions as we maybe wrap up our time here on Instagram Live on Mustang Mondays?
One question just says favorite sushi or pizza spot.
Hey, any question's a good question. Ooh, I can think of maybe my favorite. What would you go as your favorite?
Okay, in terms of pizza, I love Blaze Pizza because you basically make your own pizza. Super fun spot to go to. You can walk down a line and then you pick all of your toppings and ingredients. That's definitely a popular spot for students. In terms of sushi, there's a really good place downtown called Shin Sushi, I believe it's now.
Was there Friday night. What an awesome spot. Yeah.
Have some really good deals on specific days, so they'll do cheaper sushi on certain days, and they have a pretty big menu and lots of seating, so those would be my picks.
I think Shin's is a quality pick. I went for their spicy or garlic edamame as a appetizer. That was a good option. One of our yummy Japanese cuisine spots that's way more than just sushi is Goshi. That might be like a place that your parents take you, because it's quite a nice spot. And then pizza, Blaze is like a chain, so I might go with something that's a little bit more local to San Luis Obispo, that our students love, and I might go with two different choices. Fatty's, because it's always 2 for 1. And my second choice would be Woodstocks, which is downtown. Woodstocks is an awesome spot. And I gotta fault Woodstocks for always, I always require a little bit of ranch when I get my pizza, and I can thank Woodstocks for making me choose that. So yeah. Hey, any question's a good question. I mean, we are doing this at dinner time, Olivia, so maybe that's why we got asked about sushi and pizza.
Hungry.
Is there any last advice that you have as we sit here to talk about majors, minors, concentrations, and declaring your major on the application?
I wouldn't say so. I would just say that don't let the idea of being tied down to your major in terms of choosing Cal Poly scare. For me, I've seen it only positive, and do your research about what you want to do, and pick the school that has that best option for you. But obviously your major is going to be a big part of your education. So yeah, just to make sure it's the right fit for you, but also don't put too much pressure on yourself. Absolutely.
I think that's some sage and wise feedback there. I think that research is key. So many times, I think, Olivia, we see students, even fellow tour guides of yours, that maybe didn't do their research and might have underestimated or really maybe didn't necessarily understand the program that they chose. So I would encourage you to do that research. So if you're just joining us as we wrap up, check out our Cal Poly homepage, because calpoly.edu/admissions has this really cool Explore Majors matrix. The second great thing that we talked about is the catalog.calpoly.edu, where you can see the different majors, minors, and concentrations that we offer here at Cal Poly. Another thing that we talked about are the degree flowcharts. And then another thing I'm thinking of that we talked about is that graduate status report. And you know what, Olivia? Before I get to this last question, we totally forgot to mention something. And that is our amazing YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel has this really cool playlist called Majors. So you can actually see a video from, you can see students from all different majors talk about their experiences. So if you want to better unpack what does chemistry look at Cal Poly, or what does the major of public health look like at Cal Poly, you can go check out our Cal Poly Admissions YouTube channel. So it's not just the Cal Poly YouTube channel. It's the Cal Poly Admissions YouTube channel. And then we have a playlist called Majors. So you can specifically see the different opportunities or the different students talk about their experiences. And then last but not least, looks like we got one last question. Does Cal Poly have a 4+1 blended master's program? We absolutely do. Yes, but it is not for every single major here at Cal Poly. So you could honestly Google blended master's programs or 4+1 master's programs, and you can specifically see the different programs that offer that 4+1 blended master's here at Cal Poly. So for example, say industrial engineering has a 4+1 master's where you go from your undergraduate, your bachelor's into your master's, but not every major does. So keep that in mind. Political science, my major did not have that, but so many different opportunities. So with that, I want to say thank you, Olivia, for spending the first night of fall quarter, first day of class with me to talk all things majors, minors. I also want to say, as we continue on over the next couple of weeks, we're going to talk more about those experiences for prospective students that are seeking to apply in the future. And Cal Poly is excited. One of my colleagues, as another admissions officer, is excited next Monday at 6 p.m. to talk all things application. So we're going to myth bust the application, talk through about our selection criteria, talk through maybe some commonly asked questions about the application, and so much more. So any last wisdom as we head out, Olivia?
Yeah, definitely check that one out. I mean, the application can be overwhelming sometimes. Well, this one I think isn't too bad. But I definitely would recommend joining so that you can ask any questions you might have. But thank you
Awesome.
all here today. Thank you, Aaron, for joining me.
Thank you.
Great help. And yeah, this will be posted on our Instagram page. So if you want to access any of this information or what we talked about later on, we will post it both on here and on our YouTube page. So you'll be able to watch it again.
Thanks so much, Olivia, for having me.
Of course.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Hey there, my name's Rafael. I'm a fourth-year journalism transfer student with a minor in Spanish, and my pronouns are he, him, his. Thank you for watching the video. Please share any questions or comments you have down below in the comment section. Click here to subscribe, and to watch more videos, click here. If you want to sign up for a campus visit, we're offering in-person and virtual options, so check out our website. Link in the description. Thank you for watching.